Hello YouTube, this is Derek with the third installment of my series on my Broadway cast album collection. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first composer we're going to talk about is Michael John LaChiusa, a personal favorite of mine. The first show I've got here is Hello Again. Sadly, this show suffers the same fate that Chicago does, in that I have lost the CD. So I actually lost the CD fairly quickly after I purchased this, so I haven't had a lot of time, or I haven't had much of a chance to listen to a lot of this. What I did hear I liked, and the cast is really great. You got Carolee Carmello, Donna Murphy, John Cameron Mitchell, some really great people, but I need to buy another copy of this one. Next one is Marie Christine. Now, this is a really, I really like this show a lot. This one has very operatic in feel, probably feels a lot more operatic than your traditional Broadway sound, but it was a great show, and of course features Audra McDonald, as you can see right here on the cover, and she's amazing on this. I don't know if you can see that there, but she autographed this one as well. Like I said in an earlier video, I have several CDs of hers that I have signed, so this was a neat one to get signed since she was nominated for a Tony for that show. And the last one I have is Michael John LaChiusa's Wild Party. Really love this show. I really love musically what he's doing. This just really got some great stuff. Finian's Rainbow is a recent addition to my collection, so I don't have not had much of a chance to listen to it. I'm not really familiar with the show. I've never seen it, never seen the film, but I'm really excited to get to know it. Next here is Jonathan Larson. So I have the original Broadway cast of Rent. This came out when I was in high school, and it was very, very influential at the time, or at least a big deal. And for me, it certainly changed the way I thought about Broadway musicals. Here was a musical that sounded like the kind of music I was listening to on the radio normally. Really fell in love with the show. I've seen it several times. I think it's a great piece. Another really great piece of Jonathan Larson's is Tick, Tick, Boom. Now, this was a show that he had written before Rent, but after Rent opened up, and of course Jonathan Larson passed away, they found this show. It had never really gotten a large production, and they found this and did an off-Broadway production of it. And I actually got to see the off-Broadway production of this, and it was an amazing show, and it was really exciting to get to see it and then pick up the CD. Just has some great music. So really, really highly recommend it. If you like Rent at all, I would absolutely pick this one up. Next we have Kinky Boots. This is the show that just won the Tony Award for Best Musical. Love this score. I can't wait till this thing tours. I really love the music in here, and it looks like a really fun show. A really fantastic piece. I'm excited for that to come, and I'm sure it will be touring since it seems like it's doing very well. And we have Andrew Lippa's Wild Party. Now, the Wild Party, these two shows, this one is Michael John LaChiusa's version, came out very closely together. And they're based on the same source material. It was a poem about a party, but they're very different. The musical style is very different. I tend to like the Michael John LaChiusa one a little bit more, but it really is like comparing apples and oranges. They're so very different. So, but that's definitely a good one to check out as well. And it's definitely interesting to hear two different composers write something based on the same material to see what they do differently with it. So, especially the opening number uses lines directly from the poem. So here they are using the same lyrics, completely different music, and it's really interesting to listen to the two. Okay, so the next section we've got here is Andrew Lloyd Webber. I have Aspects of Love. I really like Aspects of Love. This was a show that came out after Phantom of the Opera, and a lot of people, I think it was Phantom is a hard act to follow, so I don't think that was part of why this one didn't do as well. It's not a great show. I mean, it's not in the same caliber as some of his greatest works, but I did really like it. And actually it prompted me to go read the novel that it's based on, and I really like the novel as well. So, next one is The Beautiful Game. This is the London recording of this, and a friend of mine went to England and saw this production, and he was very kind to bring me back a CD as well as the souvenir program for the show. So that was really exciting, and this has got a lot of really great songs in it as well. I had a recording of By Jeeves. This is a revival cast that was done. It was actually the first cast recording that was done, but I don't think it was the original. Right, it wasn't the original production, because the original production was a bit of a flop. And at the time, it was only Andrew Lloyd Webber's only flop, because he had had such a huge string of successes. But this came out in '96. It was a revival, and it actually has a lot of really charming songs in it. So I would love to see a production of this. I don't know if I ever will. I don't even know if the rights are available, but it's a neat one to give a listen to. And then I have Cats. Cats is a show that a lot of people like to hate, and you'll definitely hear, you talk to a bunch of theater people, them putting this show down quite a bit. I love Cats. I will go to my grave loving Cats. Cats was actually the show that got me into musicals in the first place. My high school did a production of this my sophomore year, and they needed someone to play Old Deuteronomy. And I was in the choir and I had done plays, but I never thought of myself as much of a singer and didn't want, I'd never done musicals. But I said, okay, sure, and, got into it, fell in love, and never looked back. And so I will always love Cats for that reason alone. And I do think it's a good show. It is what it is. It's not a show with much of a plot at all. It is, very much a dance-heavy show. But for what it is, it does have some great music. I think it's a good show. This is the original Broadway production. I would love to get the Australian cast recording of Cats. As far as I know, the Australian cast is the only one that has the Battle of the Peaks and the Pollicles, that recording of that song on it. And I've seen productions of Cats that use that. So I'd love to have a recording of it, but the Broadway production and the London production, cast recordings don't have that on there. So the Australian one, as far as I know, is the only one that has it. So I need to get that. I've been wanting that for years. Okay. Next is Evita. I have the original concept album, original London production, I guess, of this. And then the Broadway production with this one with Mandy Patinkin and Patti LuPone. And then I also have the film soundtrack. The film is actually really good. I've seen Evita on stage, and honestly, this sounds a little sacrilegious, I kind of think the movie's better. I think it works better as a film than it does on stage, even though I think the stage version is really good. So definitely go out and see this if you haven't. If you're interested in Evita at all, the film is a good way to get introduced to it. All right, the next show we have here is my favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, at least my favorite of his scores. I think this is the best music that he's ever written, and that is Jesus Christ Superstar. So I have the original production here. I have a 96 revival cast. This one is a really great recording. This is probably nowadays the one that I listen to the most. The Jesus in here is outstanding. This also has the singer Alice Cooper, the rock star, playing King Herod. And I love to show off the photo in here. It really cracks me up because if you can see here, you have all these actors with their very nice professional headshots, and you have Alice Cooper here in the middle, with his black rocker makeup looking like he's about to bite the head off of some unfortunate rodent. I mean, it cracks me up to look at that. But he actually does a really good job. I like Alice Cooper anyway, but I think he does a good job as King Herod. So I also have the film soundtrack. This was the film was the way that I was first introduced to the show. I found this, I rented it from a video store and brought it home. And the film is okay. It's kind of weird, and I was a little bit put off by it at first. But then later I had acquired somehow the original cast on record. And I sat down and listened to that thing over and over and over and over and over, about wore it out, because I just fell in love with the music from it. So I haven't seen the film since then, since I was in high school. I need to watch it again, but I really love the music from the show. But that was my introduction to it. This last one here is Jesus Christ Superstar Resurrection. Now this is an interesting piece because this is not technically a cast recording, but what this is a bunch of rock singers and bands who've come together to do a full recording of the entire score. But they're doing it in their own personal style. So it's almost like a CD of covers, but they do the entire score. And they also have it done where like certain characters are consistent throughout. I think actually all the characters are consistent throughout. So even though you may have a different rock band doing different songs, you always having the same person play Jesus. And in fact, in this recording, Jesus is played by the lead singer of the Indigo Girls. So it's really interesting to have a female singing that part. She actually does a really good job. But probably my favorite song from here is Simon Zealots. It's done by a ska band, and it is the best recording of that song that there is. It's just such a neat take on it, and it's one of my favorite songs anyway. I really like that song. But it's such a cool recording of it in here. So if you're a fan at all of Jesus Christ Superstar, I would really seek this out. This is a neat thing to listen to, and these are all people who are in love with the show as I am, because they say this is something that influenced them as a musician, because Jesus Christ Superstar has such a great rock score. So really great find if you can track it down. Next is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I have the original Broadway production, and then I have probably my favorite of the two, the Canadian recording. This is the one that has Donny Osmond, who really is just an outstanding Joseph. And also on this one, if you can see, I have this autograph. It's a little bit smeared now, but I have an autograph by Janet Metz, who played the narrator in here. She was in a production of Funny Girl here in St. Louis, and I went to go see her and got her to sign my CD. Next we have The Phantom of the Opera and its sequel, Love Never Dies. Phantom of the Opera is a classic. I love this piece, and I've seen this show many, many times. Love Never Dies, this is actually the sort of collector's edition or the enhanced edition of whenever they came out. They came with the DVD and some extra stuff stuck in here. And I got this for a really good price when Borders was going out of business. I really haven't had much of a chance to listen to it, though, sadly. I need to just sit down and spend more time with it. I've listened to songs here and there in it, but I've not sat down and listened to the entire score from beginning to end, and that's on me. I need to do that. All right, next one we have here is Song and Dance. Song and Dance is a show that it's 2 acts, and like most musicals, the first act is all songs. It's basically a one-woman musical, and then the second act is all dance. So when they came out with the cast album for it, they came out with this called Song and Dance, the song. So this is the first act. And sometimes this will be done independently as a musical called Tell Me on a Sunday. So if you see that somewhere, it's the same thing here. It's just when they did it on Broadway, because they had the 2 parts, they called it Song and Dance. One thing, it's nice though, I do have Andrew Lloyd Webber's Variations. This was the music that was used for the ballet section, the dance half of the show. So together I have the entire score. Variations is was a neat find to track this down. This was a piece that Andrew Lloyd Webber had written for his brother, Julian Lloyd Webber, who is a cellist. It's written for cello and 70s rock band. And there actually is some really great music on here. It's based on a theme by Paganini. It's 23 variations. And overall it's okay, but there are a handful of really excellent variations in there, really great pieces. So it's neat to track down if you can find this, and then of course if you're interested in getting Song and Dance, you can have both of them that way. Next is Sunset Boulevard. This is the original American recording, the one with Glenn Close. When I was buying this, I was really torn between whether I wanted to get this one or the London recording. The London cast has Patti LuPone, who I really think is an outstanding Norma Desmond, although Glenn Close does do a good job as well. But what kind of sold it for me was the rest of the cast, the supporting cast, I tended to like a little bit more on here than I did on the London cast. So, but now that I've had this one for a while, I would like to eventually pick that one up so I can have both of them. Next is Whistle Down the Wind. This is one that is I'm kind of guilty of doing with this show like I did with Love Never Dies, although I've owned this CD longer than I have the Love Never Dies CD. I really need to sit down and listen to this entire score. I've done the same thing where I picked at a couple different songs and kind of tried to listen to, I guess, to the highlights of it. And in all fairness, hasn't been anything in the score when I'm listening to it like that that's really sucked me into where I just have to keep listening. So it seems like it's somewhat mediocre, but I'm saying that without having sat down and really listened to the entire thing. So I need to do that because I like the concept, or like the storyline sounds really interesting. It's this guy comes into a town, these kids start thinking he's Jesus, something like that. It's kind of out there, but it sounds really neat. And I'd like to get to know it a lot more. I just haven't done that, but I do have the recording. And then the last show that I've got here is The Woman in White. I just picked this up. I got this from Amazon, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I really think there's a lot of great stuff in here, especially in some of the... You've got some really interesting recitative sections, some real complexities in there. Although some of them I think might work better if it wasn't sung, if it was just just spoken. But still, I really like what he's doing, and I'm anxious to listen to the rest of it. I've only listened to probably the first CD because I just got it recently, but I am liking it so far. And last one here I have is Andrew Lloyd Webber's Requiem. This is not a musical, but I figured I'd show it since I do have it. This is a piece that he wrote for chorus and orchestra and a couple of soloists. And it is a really nice piece. It's got a couple of really good songs, and of course the biggest hit from there was P.A. Jesu, and you'll see that in lots of songbooks. So it is really good. All right, next one here is Frank Lesser. I have the original cast of Guys and Dolls. I have the revival cast of Guys and Dolls as well. I have the cast of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying with Matthew Broderick. Also has Megan Mullally in it from Will and Grace, so this has got a really great cast, and I like this one a lot. I would like to pick up the Daniel Radcliffe one. I've heard really great things. I haven't had a chance to listen to it at all, but I've heard really good things. And I did get to see the scene that they did on the Tony Awards, and it looked amazing, so I definitely want to check that one out. And then the last Frank Lesser show I have is The Most Happy Fella. This is the revival. This one was a little bit, I guess, controversial, sort of, when this came out, because the Broadway production only used pianos for the orchestra. They didn't use a full pit orchestra. The original production, I believe, had a full pit orchestra, but when they revived it, they just used pianos. So it's kind of a controversial choice, but this is a really neat show to get to know. It's not one that's as well known as the other ones I mentioned, but it's definitely one worth your time if you want to get familiar with it. And the last composer we have here, or composer team, is Lerner and Lowe. I've got the original production of Camelot and the original production of My Fair Lady. I love My Fair Lady. I've seen the film of this. I don't have the soundtrack of that one, but I really did, and I've seen this on stage, and I really love it. Camelot, I actually just saw recently. I saw it on stage. I've never seen the movie of this. But I walked out of that theater so angry, because if you're not familiar, this is the story of King Arthur and Guinevere, and of course Guinevere has an affair with Sir Lancelot. And I was so pissed off at Guinevere for what she did to Arthur. When I walked out of that theater, I was just livid. And I don't think I've listened to the CD much since then, which is a shame, because I like the music. The music is great, but I was just so angry. I guess that's good theater, though. I mean, if they're getting that kind of reaction out of me, that I'm getting so invested in those characters that I'm, that angry about it, that they're doing something right. So that is it for this video. I think that I may have 2, possibly 3 more to go. I'm not sure. It just depends. I want to keep them at a manageable length. So we'll see how that goes. I might also do a couple of videos, once I've gotten through the collection, where I will talk about particular shows and just what they mean to me, or my feelings on them, for what it's worth, just because I think it would be something fun to talk about. So if you have any suggestions for me, or if you have any comments on the shows that I've been talking about so far, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And thank you so much for watching.